right? So it's crazy. So they said it'll probably take about a day and a half, trench it all and, uh, humidify.
This meeting is being recorded.
So I wanted to make sure that was all done, cause my husband's out of town this week too, so I'm like,
Do they have fans? Do they move an air underneath the house then, or?
so the house, the crawl is a conditioned crawl, so it's got a fan. Thank you. They didn't put any extra fans down there. So I was kinda worried about it, but I'm like, gosh, I don't even wanna stick my head down there and look, I'm afraid.
Let me know when we get back if you want to go. We have, moisture meters,
Okay.
so you need to, and we can take a look at the moisture upstairs compared to the moisture downstairs. Air scrubbers, moves 2,600, cubic airspace, every 30 seconds.
Jaden? I just wanted to get it done before we go out of town, cause then we go out of town Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're back Thursday, and then I leave Friday to go out of town with my daughter for her bachelorette party.
Oh.
Everybody's like, what child invites their mother to go to the bachelorette party? And I'm like, my daughter and I'm pretty close with my kids. So I felt honored that she wanted me to be there. I'm just like, you guys gotta go easy on your mom and I'm not as young as you guys are.
That's great.
How are you? I'll eventually get past that good, huh?
Huh? Yeah, heavy side.
So much that we waste our time on that we're not doing the little things. So,
Yeah,
you know, we get sucked into all this other.
Blow me into here to think, oh, I got an hour to
Hopefully it's not a sign.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone out this evening. The time is 6 p.m., at least on one of my devices, so we'll go with that. But this is our regularly scheduled city council meeting for Tuesday, May 7th, 2024. And again, thank you for being here with us this evening. We appreciate your attendance. So we'll begin our meeting tonight with an invocation offered by Pastor Christian Leva, I hope I got that right, of the Potter's House. So if you don't mind coming forward. Are you here, I guess is the question.
Jim's here. Jim's here.
Jim or Sharon, paper, rock, scissors. Okay, thank you so much, Pastor Porter. We appreciate that, filling in on that. So if you please stand for the invocation, then please remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm going to miss the prayer acoustics of this room as we move, but looking forward to it. Let's pray. Father God, thanks for this time and place. Thank you for the gift of competent leadership. Thank you that the business is conducted fairly. Things are heard, positions are stated, and everything is done in a spirit of moving things forward, in a spirit of progress. And we thank you for all the progress that's on display every time that we walk out our front doors. So, God, thank you for blessing us with this city. Thank you for your provision for it, your blessing on it. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Pastor Porter. We appreciate it. Appreciate you and your wife and all that you do for our community. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Doty?
Here.
Stoddard?
Here.
Register?
Here.
Gittenberg? Here. Williams?
Here. Very good, thank you so much. So we do have a quorum this evening of council members. Are there any conflict of interest declarations from any members of the council regarding an item on the agenda this evening?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I
Councilor
don't
Doty.
have a conflict, so to speak, by definition, but I would add that the final plot, or number 7, is, Adam Ridge subdivision, which is where I currently live, so.
Very good, thank you so much for noting that. Any other conflict of interest declarations? Okay, we do not have any special presentations. Do we have the audience participation sheet? Did anybody sign up? Okay, so we do have 2 individuals signed up in regards to this. So Tony Yanez, I believe, and Joseph Gomez on that. So Tony, if you'd like to go first, you come up, and then you'll have 3 minutes to share your presentation with the council. So if you could just state your name for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Tony Yanez. I live in the Indian Creek States, and I just got a bill from you guys, from the city, that my trash fee went up like 30, almost 40%. I'm by myself. I only get home just to sleep and have my breakfast, lunch, and dinner with my kids or at work, and I hardly have any trash. I tried to address it with a lady that collects the payments, and they said, no, you have to pay it. And I said, well, I don't want that service. I don't want to pay so much for something I hardly ever use. And they said, no, you have to. And they said, I have to come and talk to you guys about it. And I said, okay, I'll go and see what's going on. Why are you guys forcing people a service that if should be, up to the person if he wants the service or not? Because I can very well give my trash to my kid that lives in the country and takes a trash run to the dump, and they'll take care of the little bit of trash that I can, but I was denied the option. And 40% is very gouging, that amount that you guys raise. It's not common for that to happen. And I would like to know why is this going on.
So appreciate you coming down. In regards, and the next gentleman, I believe, is on the same issue on that. So we'll see if we can hopefully answer some of those questions. So the fees did go up, as you mentioned, this year. That was reviewed at the last budget reviews last summer, and then the final budget that was approved in August of last year, with those fees being implemented in April with the fee increase. So what happened? So the fees were going up no matter what, and so as part of that proposal with Republic Service, when they came before the council, was to include the recycle service, and I believe that's kind of what you're instigating at, is with the recycling. That's now part of the garbage service that you're not utilizing, or at least to its maximum capabilities. So that is now part of the service. It doesn't reduce your fees if you don't ask for a recycle bin, as you mentioned, in that regard. So that is true. So the fees were going up regardless, one way or the other. And then it was, decided upon to include the recycling as part of the garbage program on that, so that all citizens could take advantage of it if they wish to do so. But as you mentioned, it does not reduce your fee if you do not have the recycle. It's more of a all-inclusive, rather than choosing which option you wanted, so it's all included in that bill, like you stated, that you have now. I know that, Councilor Register had emailed me, about a month or so ago, kind of looking at different options or the things that we can do. And I've talked to Republic Service since that time about the possibility of increasing. We do have some discount programs with the garbage service, for, individuals, seniors and others that maybe don't use much of the garbage. They're, by themselves, things of that nature. And so that's something that we definitely are going to be looking at. When I mentioned that to Republic Services, they said that's something that could be considered. So with our upcoming budget hearings that'll be happening starting in just a couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So that's something definitely to be looked at by the council and kind of decide, what discounts do we currently have that we maybe could increase? Are there other discounts we haven't thought of to add into that to provide some relief to those increases that have happened? So it's not going to take it away completely. Like I said, the fees were going up either way, just with inflation and everything of that nature. And it was decided at that time just to make it an all-inclusive rather than separate fees for the garbage and the recycling on that. So I don't know if that answers some of the questions. I know it doesn't probably satisfy because the fee is still there in that regards, but I know it will be looked at.
I don't really care for the whole service at all.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, Councilor
just to
Doyle.
add one item. You can certainly request the smallest bin available.
And she did.
Okay, she did that for you?
Yeah, she explained it
Okay.
to me and said that this is what I can do for you, and I can't do anymore. I said, there's weeks that I don't take out the trash can because there's nothing in it. And to pay so much for something that I'm not even using, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Especially, paying 40% extra for something I'm not using. I don't want the service. And she said, no, you can't give it up. You have to pay. And I said, well, I don't have to do anything. If I don't pay my bill, my water bill, you guys are going to shut me down. And I still won't pay. Right?
Yeah, and I mean, that's obviously your choice on that, but I know like there was those options given of different can sizes, as Councilor Doty mentioned on that. And then also, our Public Works Director, who's actually here this evening, is able to answer some of those questions. Bruce Mills also is able to answer some of those questions. So I would recommend if you do have additional questions, they can get you their contact information so you can follow up with them and get more detailed information about, how this all transpired, the decisions that were made, kind of the choices. Sounds like you already know of them, but just to make sure that you are aware of all of those discount programs and things of that nature, so they can definitely help you out with that. So, and Rob is directly behind you, and he can get you his contact information to follow up and get all that detailed information.
Okay.
Okay. So we appreciate you coming down and voicing those concerns. So, and definitely will follow up with that. So.
Thanks.
Okay. Joseph. And if you could state your name for the record, we appreciate that, and then you have 3 minutes as well.
My name is Joseph Gomez. I live not too far from here, and the same thing, the trash fees. I found it a little absurd that it was mandatory, and I mean, I get it, there's inflation and everything, but, at the same time, I think it should have been more of a public issue, and you guys should have sent some kind of thing saying, hey, this is what's going to happen, not just come and bring us a recycle bin that we're not even going to use. I mean, and I understand there is I would expect, since it's going one direction, for there to be some kind of discounts for certain types of, housing, because our house is a 2-people house right now, and we don't use it that much either. So, we did talk to the recycle place, but they didn't mention anything about any other options, and we did call the city to pay our water bill. So, I think if there is other options for seniors and everybody else, I mean, you guys should send out flyers and, hey, these are the options available for you guys, instead of just, just putting it kind of like it's on the back burner and we're not seeing it, you know what I mean? We just see it in the bill. But I think it'd be more formal to send out like, hey, we got these options for you guys. You guys don't all have to go along with this, and that would help a little bit. But I mean, like my situation, that is a little high, for just the two of us.
Yeah, and I would say definitely recommend reaching out to Rob as well and get that info. And so, just so you're aware, so there was multiple public awareness programs that were done on social media and letters. There was a pamphlet that was provided to all residents in their water bill, and I get it. A lot of times you see that and you just throw it away. You don't read what's inside of there, so I understand that. But there was a detailed pamphlet that kind of gave the options, showed the different cart sizes, the different prices on that, and so Mr. McDonald can definitely get you one of those pamphlets and provide you that information. He probably doesn't have it on him tonight, but he can get you his contact info, and he could either email you a PDF of it or get you a hard copy, and it'll explain kind of the process. It'll show the different cart sizes and the different prices for those, so that you don't have to have the large one. You can actually get a smaller one. It's about half the size. That will reduce the cost on that as well. So there are some of those options out there, and we can make sure to get you all that information.
All right, thank you.
Okay, yeah, and thank you for taking the time. We do appreciate you coming down. Okay, so those are the two individuals that did sign up under audience participation, and we do appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to come down and talk to us, let you know your concerns. So we do appreciate that. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, and I don't believe we have any amendments this evening. So do we have a motion for approval?
Mr. Mayor?
Of consent? Yes.
Before we go to that, there is a amendment to the agenda itself. Do you want to address that now, or do you want to wait?
Yeah, we can do that now.
Okay. So just an amendment to the agenda to correct new business item number 1. It should read, consider bill number 36, ordinance number 3598, authorizing the issuance and sale of up to 17 million? Is it 17,300,000 principal amount of general obligation bond, series 2024, for the purpose of providing funds to reconstruct and furnish certain city of Caldwell fire facilities. And I believe what's underlined is what's missing, which is with a request to move for its passage and approve the summary for publication.
Perfect. So we have a motion for that amendment, for that addition. Is there a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stodic. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? So that motion passes. Okay, so we are now to the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Doty.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as printed.
Second.
Very good. So a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stodic for approval of the consent calendar. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, then the voting is open.
I had to warm mine up.
So yes, getting warmed up. There they are, all warmed up. Okay, so voting is closed as all votes are cast, and that motion passes unanimously. Okay, so that moves us into our update reports, and so we do have one update report tonight regarding the Arthur Street Pathway Project. And Haley is on the move, so I'm guessing that you're the one that's going to present on that. And so just so everyone, this is the multimodal pathway that's been proposed for quite some time. There's been some questions come up as they're getting ready for potential construction of it, connecting 21st Street down to downtown.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, council members. So the Arthur Street Pathway, we were able to have the open house, and we were able to get a lot of great feedback. I know some of you were able to join. With that feedback, we've been moving forward with the design. We've been able to implement some of the feedback we heard, specifically the last block along Arthur Street. Those residences don't currently have, and I apologize, the last block meaning the block closest to 21st, so that block between 20th and 21st. Those residences don't currently have any sidewalk in front of their homes, so they asked if we could do anything to try and push that sidewalk a little bit further away from the right-of-way so that we're not so close to those homes, because those homes are considerably closer to right-of-way than in other areas. So we were able to accommodate them. We minimized the landscape buffer between the sidewalk and the curb and gutter. So that one block, we were able to accommodate the requests. Other requests were things along types of trees. So we're continuing to look at tree types. And otherwise, we received a lot of really positive feedback. Some of the negative feedback that we received couldn't be incorporated into changing the plans, but the positive feedback was overwhelming. So we were very pleased to hear that in the open house. And as far as our design goes, we should be wrapping up design in the next couple of weeks to a month, and then we would be able to bring the full design to you so that we can put the documents out to bid.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any questions council.
Mr.
Councilor
Mayor,
Brody?
just a comment.
Mhm.
The pathway to construct it has not been approved by council yet, right?
That is correct.
So I'm wondering, before we spend much more time or effort on that, if council should make that decision at some point soon
Mm-hmm.
to see if they want to continue with this path. There is some further information that's come forward where this grant money can be used in other areas of our city as well. And so without knowing what the council wants to do or the direction they want to go, I certainly don't want to waste your time and efforts if the council chooses a different direction. So I just want to bring that to your attention. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the council, I don't know if we could vote on that tonight, or we'd probably have to bring a resolution for next hearing. And I'd be happy to put a resolution together so that we can bring it before you before we continue moving forward, if that would be something that the council members would be agreeable to.
Yeah, and it definitely would have to be noticed, so we could look at that May 21st,
Okay.
if that gives you enough time to put something together
Yeah.
on that and bring it. So, okay, excellent. Any other questions for Haley, who's doing an amazing job? We're so grateful to have her here. So thank you for all that you do. So keep it up.
Ms.
Councilor
Mayor,
Williams?
Haley, since you're here, has nothing to do with what she's talking about. How soon is that traffic light going in at Montana Ustick?
Oh, where did Rob go?
He's sleeping in the corner.
I apologize. Rob has the timing better memorized than
I've been
I do.
promising, because every time a development comes in anywhere near there,
Hmm.
because I was told spring, well, we're in spring, nearly. So Rob, hi Rob.
The Montana Ustick signal, what's the time?
Don't get comfortable down there, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Council, Mayor, Council. The question is Montana and Ustick?
Yes, sir.
So that project is just about to go out to bid. The construction duration of that project should be less than 60 days. Our goal, and what I have been talking to our project manager about, is that our goal is to have it done before school starts in August.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you have a question, Councilor Dittenberg?
This may be a rhetorical question, Mr. McDonald, but if I'm not mistaken, didn't this project go out to bid once before, but the city exercised some due diligence and determined it wasn't an appropriate bid, and so that's why the delays? It's not for lack of trying, it's for lack of a proper bid, correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Councilor Dittenberg, that is correct. So if you recall, we put this out late summer last year, and what happened was we only received one bid back, and the bid was twice the amount of the engineer's estimate. And in addition to that, there was a $300,000 error on their bid. And so we looked at it, and the mayor and I even met, and we talked about it, and we said, we know this is a bad intersection. Do we try to work through this and push through? And ultimately, we decided to throw the bid out because there were just too many red flags, and that's what pushed us into 2024.
Thank you.
And I believe you did have the street go out, and they did put some flashing reds, did some temporary, because obviously we didn't want anything to happen out there in meantime, so there was some improvements done to it to try to raise awareness of the stop signs, to make sure people were aware of it while we were in the interim of trying to get the project underway.
Yeah, that is correct. The stop signs are the actual LED flashing stop signs that are out there now. Idaho Power already came in and moved all their traffic, all their power lines, and so everything's basically ready to go. It's just trying to get a contractor on board now at a reasonable price.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Haley. Appreciate you. Okay, that moves us into old business. We do have a few items in there. So first one is old business action item number 1, public hearing for the purpose of taking public comment concerning the creation of LID 24-1. So if we have anybody signed up for that one. We do not have anybody signed up in regards to this LID. Is there any staff that wants to make any comments on that, or maybe just real quick, just what kind of where it's at? Looks like it's within the city center zone downtown.
Mr. Mayor, council members, yes, LID 24-1 is for the local improvement district for the decorative concrete. So this would include the curb gutter, sidewalk, driveway approaches that are in the downtown center. But as I'm sure you've noted, in the downtown center, we have a little bit more of a decorative sidewalk than we do in the rest of the city. So This LID would allow us to continue with that more decorative pattern. It also allows us to continue to move forward with things like our streetlights, our benches, our trash cans, so that we can continue to improve our downtown hub. The downtown corridor does, the city does contribute 60%, and then the taxpayer would contribute the remainder.
Perfect, excellent, thank you so much. As I mentioned, nobody did sign up to testify on this item, so I'd ask for a motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing.
Second.
Motion from Counselor Doty and second from Counselor Stoddard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So that moves us into action item number 2, which is consideration of this bill and ordinance, bill number 37, ordinance number 3599, with a request to move for its passage.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Doty.
I move that we, pass bill number 37, ordinance number 3599 for LID 24-1 with a request to move, I guess, for its passage.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
So a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddard. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is now open. And all votes are cast. The voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. That'll move us into old business action item number 3, very similar to the previous one. This is again for the purpose of taking public comment concerning creation of LID 24-2. Similar, but this is throughout the city limits, not just in the downtown core for the city center. So this is again for construction of concrete curb, gutter, drive-up approaches, and decorate sides within the Caldwell city limits. Let's see if anybody has signed up for that one. Nope, and nobody has signed up for that one as well, and I think we can just say ditto from the previous report on that. And so I'd stand for a motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion from Counselor Stoddard and a second from Counselor Doty. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that motion passes. So then I'll move us into the consideration of bill number 38, ordinance number 3600 for the formation of LID 24-2.
So moved.
And a second. So we have a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddard for adoption of bill number 38, ordinance number 3600, with a request to move for its passage. Did you have a
Mr. Mayor,
discussion on that
please.
motion? Yes.
Yes, so just clarification, this is citywide, this says city limits.
Do you want to touch on that?
Yes, so LID 24-2 would be for the entire city of Caldwell, which would be within the city limits of Caldwell. You would need to be part of the city.
So, clarify for me then, what is this gonna cost every individual taxpayer now?
So for this LID 24-2, the city would contribute 25%, and then the taxpayer who wishes to enter into the LID would pay the remainder, but they would have the period of time in which to pay the city back. So the city would pay everything initially, and then the taxpayer, we would have a payment plan worked out with them where they would just pay us back.
So it's still optional for the individual taxpayer?
Correct. The taxpayer
Thank
has
you.
to sign up.
Thank you so much.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that clarification. So again, we do have that motion and second for passage of this bill and ordinance. Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, then voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast. The voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously as well. So this puts us into our last LID for the night. So this is again, let's see, so this is action item number 5, for purposes of taking public comment concerning the creation of LID 24-3, sending city services and making sewer, water, and pressure irrigation connections within the Caldwell city limits. Do we have anybody signed up? And nobody signed up for that either. So again, this is similar to the other, but this is for if people are needing to make sewer, water connections, they can use this LID voluntarily. They want to sign up for that, and then they, rather than paying, let's say it's a $10,000 connection fee or whatever that is, they can pay that over time with some interest in that regards. But again, it's voluntary, this is not a forced LID. And as mentioned, nobody signed up to speak on this item, so I stand for a motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Counselor Stoddard and a second from Counselor Doty. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So that moves us to action item number 6 for the consideration of bill number 39, ordinance number 3601 for the formation of LID 24-3 with a request to move for its passage.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddard for passage of bill number 39, ordinance number 3601. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast. The voting is closed, and that passes unanimously as well. That'll
Mr.
move.
Stoddard and Mr. Doty, thank you for being efficient and moving us right through this section of the agenda quickly. I appreciate it.
Short period of time to get something in.
So that moves us into action item number 7. This is for consideration of bill number 67, ordinance number 3561-A, and this is simply correcting the legal description of a previously approved ordinance, which was 3561. So this would be for a request to move for its passage and approve the summary for publication, and again, just simply correcting the legal description of a previously approved ordinance. So do we have a sponsor of this bill and ordinance for this correction?
Waiting on
Give you the chance.
Mr. Mayor, I'll take this opportunity to sponsor Bill 36, ordinance number 3598, authorizing the issuance of the sale of up to, nope, wrong one. Where am I at? I'm number 7. I'll sponsor Bill number 67, ordinance 3561A, correcting the legal description previously approved by ordinance 3561,
Very good.
with request for smooth by passage.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Very good. So we have a motion from Councilor Dittenberg and a second from Councilor Stoddard for adoption of bill number 67, ordinance number 3561-A, correcting the legal description of ordinance 3561. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast. The voting is closed, and it passes unanimously as well. So that moves us into new business. Action item number 1, this is for consideration of bill number 36, ordinance number 3598, authorizing the issuance and sale of up to 17.3 million principal amount. I don't know if the 17,300 would even buy one turnout for the fire department. The prices today. So this is again for the principal amount of the general obligation bond series 2024. And as mentioned, this was corrected under new business item for the additional sentence in there with a request to move for its passage and approve the summary for publication. Raylene, it's all yours.
So I'm going to be really quick. We have our bond attorney, John McDevitt, here to talk about the ordinance. The only thing I would say is the notice of publication in your packets, the dates are wrong because of this hearing, and so we just had to push those out. So John will cover that too.
Okay, thank you so much, Raylene. And if you could just state your name for the record, we'd appreciate it, and then it's all yours.
John McDevitt. I'm an attorney at Skinner Fawcett in Boise and serving as the city's bond counsel. Mr. Mayor, council members, it's a pleasure to be here to go over what we call a bond ordinance, ordinance number 3598. This is authorizing the issuance of the city's general obligation bond to finance the improvements to the city's fire facilities. Couple of things I want to point out in the ordinance, and then I'll stand for any questions. The ordinance authorizes the bonds to be issued. It authorizes the city to accept purchase proposals. And as Raylene just mentioned that sell date was postponed from May 29th to June 18th just due to timing considerations of getting the notice of sale published in the paper. The ordinance provides parameters which will set forth the maximum amount of bonds to be issued. That's the $17,300,000. The maximum interest rate, which is 5.25% per annum, and then the maximum maturity date of 20 years. It also approves what we call post-issuance tax compliance procedures. And when a city is issuing tax-exempt bonds, there are certain requirements to maintain the tax exemption on the bonds to make sure that they're being used for public governmental purposes. I don't anticipate that being an issue, but as a matter of course, we include the post-issuance tax compliance procedures, and that's included as an exhibit to the ordinance. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Doty.
Just wanted, maybe for Raylene, did we get our rating back as to what? It hasn't come back yet? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here this evening. Okay, so then this bill and ordinance is before council for your consideration and and adoption.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Doty.
I'll read it from here just to make sure we get it correct here, but I would make a motion that authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $17,300,000 principal amount of general obligation bonds, Series 2024, for the purpose of providing funds to reconstruct and furnish certain city or Caldwell fire facilities, with a request to move for its passage and approve the summary for publication. It would be Bill number 36, Ordinance number 3598.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Do I have a second?
Second.
So a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stodic. Again, this is for adoption of Bill 36, Ordinance number 3598, with a request to move for its passage and approving the summary for publication. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. And that moves us into new business action item number 2, and this is a quasi-judicial hearing for case number ANN 24-1, an annexation of approximately 0.27 acres with a zoning designation of R1. This is for property located on the south side of Marvin Street, approximately 400 feet east of South Kimball Avenue. And the wonderful planner of April Cavello, in her first time here before the council to present her case. The time is yours, April.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is April Cavello, City Planner at 205 South 6th Avenue. Before you tonight is the Marvin annexation. Sorry. For the Mazukin annexation, case number ANN 240001. Thank you. The subject property is a total of approximately 0.30 acres, parcel located on the south side of Marvin Street at 210 Marvin, approximately 400 feet east of South Kimball Avenue. The site has frontage along Marvin Street. Parcels R2262200000 and R2262301000 are part of an older subdivision called the Hendrickson subdivision. The Hendrickson subdivision was platted in 1955 in the jurisdiction of Canyon County. The subject property is on well and septic system, and in 2014, the subdivision domestic well experienced some issues, and in 2015, 8 parcels in the Hendrickson subdivision annexed into the city of Caldwell to allow for connectivity to city water. The subject property, which is both parcels, were not part of the 2015 annexation, and at that time were not owned by the current applicant owner. The Mazukin family purchased the property in 2023, and in 2024 applied for annexation in order to obtain city water services. And the applicant's request. The application before you this evening is for annexation of 0.30 acres of land into the city of Caldwell limits, which consists of 2 parcels shown in black on the screen. There is no proposed development at this time. Conditions for the surrounding subject site. The subject site is used for single-family residential and surrounded by single-family residential on all sides. The zoning and the land use analysis. The request consists, there we go. Zoning and land use analysis. The request consists of the applicant's proposal for annexation of the existing home with a low-density residential zoning designation to connect to city water. The subject property is surrounded by existing low-density residential, and some of which have been annexed into the city, and others are still in the county. No comp plan amendment is necessary since the requested R1 zoning is consistent with the low-density residential designation in the comp plan future land use map. Staff noted that the subject site consists of 2 parcels, one of which is below the minimum lot size required for the R1 zoning and would therefore be a non-conforming. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommends condition that includes the requirement of the lot to be combined prior to any future development. Public hearing notification, the agencies were notified and asked to provide comments, none of which had any concerns, and there was no public comments received. Staff summary is the application was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission on April 10th, 2024, and recommended approval. Staff recommends that if City Council approves the request, that such request is subject to conditions as specified in the conditions of approval recommended by the Commission. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any questions from council?
A question.
Yes, Councilor Register.
Just have a quick question. On page number 10 of the packet of the required approval criteria, I was just curious, it says compliant, not compliant. Both are X'd and both are highlighted. Are they compliant?
They are compliant. There would be no reason for it to be, just with the condition that they request that the lot be consolidated, the 2 parcels.
Yep, Mayor and Council Register. The findings were written in both approval and denial format so that council can make the decision, and then once council makes the decision, then we will go back and adjust those findings before signature.
Thank you.
Yes,
Just
Councilor
one
Doty.
follow-up. I just want to be clear. So if it gets approved for annexation, they would need to hook into city services. Is that the goal here today? Because I see clearly there's a house
yes.
on there now, right?
So the
what's
goal for right now would just be the applicant just wants to sign up for city water. And to do so, they would have to annex into the city.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Excellent job, Mrs.
Thank
Cabello.
you.
Well done. Okay. Alexi, I think I got that right. If you could come forward, and if you could just state your name for the record, and then the time is yours.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Alexi Mazukin. I go by Alex, make it easier. Please excuse my attire. It's been a long day. Yes, we purchased the property in 2023. The previous owner's trust requested, well, actually a little backstory. The house was on a shared well with the neighbors to the right of the image. They have 2 wells there. They had an agreement. Since the passing of the previous owners, the trust wanted no cut off any ties of any kind of dealings that were going on before then. They cut off the ties on the shared well, so therefore we currently have a property that has no water connection at all. There is municipal water running through the property, and our request is to get annexed within the city limits in order to have a water connection to the house.
Very good. Excellent. Thank you so much. Any questions from council? Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, and that's the only person that has signed up to testify on this item, so I stand for a motion to close the public testimony
So moved.
portion of this hearing. There's a motion from Councilor Register,
Yep.
second from Councilor Doty on that. So she got in very quick on that. So, any discussion on that motion?
Good girl.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes. So public testimony is closed. So that moves it into deliberation or any motions from council regarding this annexation request.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Register.
I move that we accept the annexation request.
Very good. So we have a motion for approval of annexation 24-1 with the conditions as outlined in the staff report, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Very good. And do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Register and a second from Councilor Stoddard for passage and of annexation 24-1. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with Councilor Doty or Councilor Dentenberg?
I do have one question. This is going to be more typical as we go forward with the city's boundaries and the services. How many lots do we know out there that are these kind of enclaves of not being in the city?
So,
Mayor and Council Dittenberg, I was looking to our Public Works Director, and he said, lots. So I don't think we have an actual number, but if that is something that council desires, we could probably get that for you. But there is quite a few lots that have not been annexed that are enclaved.
We're good. Okay, any other discussion or questions? Okay, so again, the motion is for approval of this annexation. So actually, do you have number 2 by chance? So this is new business number 3 for the bill and ordinance. Do we need to, could we just do that one with a voice vote? Yeah, so but number 2 for the approval.
No, that is,
Yeah, but,
that's correct.
yeah, but we're on number 2 though.
Yeah.
We're on the annexation, the quasi judicial.
Yes,
Can we do
that's
that?
the ordinance that goes with it right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the
so-
motion's
oh, I see
for,
what you mean.
can we just do that one, a voice vote, or do we need a roll call it?
Or just do a
Okay.
voice.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so do a roll call vote on that one. So you can leave that one up. Noah will be to that one just a second.
Jody,
Yes.
Dottie,
Yes.
Register,
Yes.
Dittenberg,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Okay, so that motion passes unanimously. And then that will move us into this. So this is, again, this is the housekeeping item for the bill and ordinance. Since it is an annexation, it does require that. So do we have a sponsor of bill number 10, ordinance number 3572 for annexation 24-1?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard for passage of bill number 10, ordinance 3572, with the request to move for its passage and approving the summary for publication. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, and then voting is open at this time. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that passes unanimously as well. So that moves us into action item number 4. This is for consideration of bill number 40, ordinance 3602, amending chapter 5, article 1, the Caldwell City Code regarding sidewalk repairs with a request to move for its passage and approving the summary for publication. Mr. Mills, it's all yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Public Works is proposing a minor code amendment to concrete sidewalk repairs. Our city code places the responsibility of sidewalk repairs on the adjacent property owner. And we're not proposing to change that, but we are proposing a tweak to that. Most of the issues we have in a lot of sidewalk repairs are when two adjoining sidewalk panels, one lifts or one drops, and we wind up with a big trip hazard there. When that happens, we know about it, we contact the adjacent property owner, and unfortunately, this begins a long and cumbersome and repetitive process back and forth to see if we can get the property owner to fix that repair. And sometimes this can take months to go through this process. Meanwhile, this trip hazard is sitting there and putting both of us in kind of a potential libelous situation. So, and most of the damaged sidewalk in the city, unfortunately, seems to be occurring in the older portions of the city where it can be a real burden on a property owner to pay for expensive sidewalk repairs. So with that, with a bit of a background, what we're proposing is just a minor addition to our code, which reads as follows. In order to expedite certain necessary sidewalk repairs, and if sufficient funds are available, the city will schedule and pay for sidewalk repairs of damages not caused by the property owner. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any questions?
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Doty.
Any damage not caused by the property owner? Are you talking about this, I guess, scenario specifically? Because clearly weather can damage it. Lots of things can damage the sidewalk besides
Right.
the property owner.
The property owner would be more of a situation where they run a real heavy piece of equipment across the property. It's very obvious that they caused the damage to the sidewalk.
Right, so my concern is if it's, so right now we have it so that clearly we have to repair the sidewalk in front of our property, right?
Correct.
But if we don't cause that damage, would this eliminate me from ever having to repair the sidewalk unless I cause the damage?
Thank you, and I think I understand your question better. What we're saying is that these minor hazards, we feel that the city should just take those over and pay for them. The amount of staff time that it takes for, going through, this process we have just to fix a few of these trip hazards, it just isn't worth the time. So yeah, what we're really saying is we propose that the city pays for these repairs of these trip hazards. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I still believe it's too vague. I'm reading it right here, and it says, in order to expedite, because I get what you're saying about the trip hazard, I don't disagree with that.
Yes.
But the way it's worded, it says sidewalk repairs of damages not caused by the property owner, so that would include anything not caused by the property owner, not just a trip hazard, correct? Maybe Mr. Hilty can weigh in.
I think that verbiage is just so that you don't go destroy it on purpose, so that the city comes out and pays for.
Yeah, I mean, most of the trip hazards are caused, a lot of them by tree roots, for example. They lift a panel of the sidewalk. That's not the property owner's fault, though. So what we're really saying is that, maybe I'm not making myself clear enough, is just that the city will pay for these type of repairs when we're in a situation that can cause, I guess, potential injury to people with these trip hazards. And only exception to that would be if that damage was caused and can be shown that it was caused by the property owner. Yeah, I don't know if I restated it, but that's what the intention is.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, I fully understand what you're saying. So, but without this clause in there previously for the last however many years it's been in there, wouldn't it have been my responsibility as the homeowner, no matter what caused the damage, that I'm still responsible for the site? I guess what's the urgency of this now? Because my concern is it doesn't say just trip hazard. I'm not saying I disagree with what we're doing here. I just want to be clear that it's going to be more than a trip hazard by the way this is worded. So as long as we want it to be everything not caused by the homeowner.
And Mr. Mayor and Councilman Doty, I guess we purposely worded it to say necessary sidewalk repairs rather than putting in something like hazardous or trip hazard in city code. We wanted to just leave it as necessary. I think it just, I think it's a little cleaner that way.
I'm not trying to make it difficult, but who decides what's necessary? And is that covered in the ordinance as to who is the decision maker on what's necessary and what isn't?
It's not covered in the code, but Public Works would make a judgment call on these situations as they come forward. The biggest reason for this thing is that we don't want some citizen to go out there and trip and fall, as happened in a previous city I was in, and broke her glasses, broke her nose, broke her elbow, and sued the city. And so even though the property owners are responsible, they also go after the deep pockets. And that's what we're trying to avoid, I guess, with this. Perhaps it could be worded differently, but this is actually the same wording I used in a different city.
And just one more comment. I totally agree with you. I agree that we should get rid of trip hazards. I'm just making sure if my understanding is it's not just trip hazard. It could be anything that someone, which we don't know who, decides is necessary. Is that correct?
I guess the situation I'm thinking of is we have some sidewalks that have a lot of cracks in them, old sidewalks, but they're level, and so people are not tripping over those. Sure. That is not the intent of this. The intent of this is for hazardous situations. I just didn't want to put the word hazardous in the ordinance.
Yes, Councilor.
Could I just suggest that maybe this is rewritten with some of those concerns and then brought back so that it's very clear?
Yeah, Mr. Hilty, do you have any comments on thoughts on how it's worded, or?
The council, the way I read it was, this was kind of another option for the city to step in, where there was a fix that needed to be made. You bypass, and I've been through that process as well. It's a difficult process with homeowners. Sometimes they don't have the funds. It starts out as a surprise that the sidewalk is their responsibility, and you've got to kind of work through that. So it is taxing on staff. it's an option for them to step in. As I read it, I think it was kind of an alternate. If you look at subsection 3 above, I think you'd read those in conjunction, right? So whenever a sidewalk or any portion thereof has been ordered replaced and is not replaced, the city has the right to impose a special assessment. So, you certainly could proceed in that fashion as well. Listening to your comments, Councilor Doty, I get what you're saying, that there may be some confusion as to whether or not this is mandatory on the city, whether or not it relieves the adjacent homeowner of what has traditionally been a responsibility, not just in our city, but in all cities. So yeah, we could, unless there's an urgency, Bruce, we could take another look at it and.
I'm fine with that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
And I'm not trying to delay it. I certainly agree with you that we should get rid of the trip hazards. I'm just ensuring that this isn't opening it up to anyone to start calling the city with anything that, if they just want their sidewalk repaired. And then, because it just says necessary, right? It doesn't say like trip hazards. And I'm not sure that this isn't very common in other cities as well, how this is worded. Again, I'm in favor of not having people trip on our sidewalks around the city. I just want to ensure that we don't get flooded with a bunch of calls with just cracked sidewalks that are level. If Mr. Hilty believes it's worded appropriately with the paragraph 3 above, then I'd be okay with it tonight. If what I've said doesn't cause him any concern or you any concern, then I'm good. So I just want to make sure it doesn't open us up for more problems, if that makes sense, than just repairing a trip hazard. So that's all.
I think that where it says, the certain necessary sidewalk repairs, which would be determined by the Public Works Director on that to determine if this is a necessary, or if, as mentioned by Mr. Hilty, number 3 would be the trumping card, I guess you could say, and then if something happens, it's a immediate risk, immediate concern, then number 4 could come into play for the city to step in and do that. Is that?
That's the way. Maybe I could have worded it differently. That's the intent. So I mean, it's certainly up to the council. If you'd prefer, we can go back and work with the city attorney and tweak the language slightly, or move forward tonight.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to hear what they think.
Councilor Gilbert.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I don't know whether or not this is a question, or just more of a comment. Pretty little trees grew up to be big problem, ugly trees, eventually. And, Grandma's cute little tree she planted in 1976 is now heaving sidewalks in our city. And, I would like to see something, if we repair a sidewalk in front of someone's house at the city's expense, then maybe we have the right to remove the tree.
Mr. Mayor and Councilman didn't. That's probably a larger discussion for another time, but certainly, in the past, when we've gone in there, if it's a root that's causing this, we've cut off that root. And many times the tree survives, and there are times that if it was a major taproot that it doesn't. But I'm not familiar with actually the city going in and removing a tree, especially if it's on private property.
Right.
Any other discussion, or?
Mr. Mayor, just move the question, please.
What's
Let's
that?
vote on it.
Okay. So do we have so we just need a motion?
Yeah.
I think for that. So is that a motion then, Councilor Stoddard?
Sure.
For in favor, or?
In favor.
Well,
Okay.
if Chuck's okay with it, then I'll
So-
second it, I guess. But
Okay, so we got a motion from Councilor Stoddard and a second from Councilor Doty, for approval of the resolution, for approval of bill number 40, ordinance number 3602, requesting to move for its passage and approving the summary for publication. Any other discussion beyond what we've had already? Okay, so with that, the voting is open. And all votes are cast. And that does pass unanimously, so it does get through on it. So thank you, Mr. Mills, appreciate you bringing that forward on that. So that moves us into action item number 5. Consider resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Security Advisor Services for security services at 205 South 6th Street. Debbie, are you gonna? Ray Lynn, okay.
So with moving into the Nancola Center, with talks with the chief of police, we are paying, or currently when we've been in this building, we've been paying overtime for our sergeants to be in here. Well, we're having our meetings, and so we were looking at a little bit cheaper options to see what we could do, but still provide enough security while we're at city council meetings, urban renewal meetings. And then we also, right now, until we get the second floor secured, having them, after 5 to 10 p.m. or 5 to 11? 5 to 9. So, while, TVCC is in session. So, that's what this request is, to add that security instead of paying our police officers the overtime to be outside just standing, so that they can be out on the streets instead, so.
Okay. Thanks so much. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Doty.
I just want Raylene to go just a little bit further. We also wouldn't have to pay the security services benefits, right?
That is correct. Since it's a contract, we pay by hour, I believe it was a minimum of 2 hours, but we do pay hourly. And so it is certain days limited to, right now we just have it for city council meetings, urban renewal, and then right now until TVCC is out and we fix the elevators, so.
An increase in funding or adding an employee, I just want to be clear on
It is
that.
just an
And it
operating
should reduce
contract.
how much we're paying for the services currently provided.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor.
Just a question regarding security advisory services. I don't know anything about them. Who vetted them and who chose them, and
Well, all of our,
are they the ones that we've decided are appropriately selected? I know other people we know that own security agencies have turned out to have other issues that.
thank you, Councilman. Yes, so all of our security services have to be, registered with, the city clerk, and then they also are approved by the chief of police as well, so they do a full accounting. We got 3 bids, or 3 quotes, and we looked at all 3 of them. We didn't take the highest and we didn't take the lowest, so, we felt that this was the best option.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Raylene. Appreciate it. Okay. So we have a motion in regards to this resolution.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Doty.
I'll make a motion that we, we're on 5, right?
Yes,
That
correct.
we, authorize the execution of an agreement with Security Advisory Services for security services at 205 South Sixth Street. I would just like to add a comment. I do also have the same concerns as Councilor Williams, so as long as our chief is on top of that and make sure that we have someone qualified there and all their certifications are up to date.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do we have a second?
Second.
So a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Static for approval of this resolution. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, voting is open. All votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. That moves us into action item number 6, finance report.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Register.
I move that the accounts payable in the amount of $5,447,605.47, represented by check numbers 177,285 through 177,826, and payroll for the amount of $1,429,090.80, represented by check numbers 39361 through 39397, and direct deposits to be accepted, payments approved, and vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
Good. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilor Register and a second from Councilor Static for acceptance of the finance report. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And that moves us into council comments. Councilor Register.
Yes, I have 2 things tonight. One, I think we all received the email about what Middleton was doing with their schools. Are we interested at all in taking a look at that on a deeper level and seeing if there's something that can fit Caldwell? Maybe not the same thing, but something that might be beneficial to the city?
So I know that question has come up. I myself am not interested in what Middleton did. I think that creates a kind of opens up a can of worms. And again, the issue really boils down to, I think, funding. And at a state level, it'd be nice. Obviously, we don't have any control over that. But it creates, again, this is just my opinion on it, but what it does, it creates, the demand is there. So you're cutting off supply, which is gonna affect, as you know, as a realtor, if you have the demand for homes, but you cut off a supply, the price is just gonna continue to increase. They're gonna just start going out into the county more, if they can't get approved in the city. And to be honest, property rights, we pride ourselves in Idaho at protecting property rights. If you bought a 20-acre piece of land with the thoughts of developing it, you just lost all your property rights to do that. Or if you're a farmer who's farmed it for 50 years and that was your retirement, a developer's not going to buy it now. So you just lost your property rights on both sides of it. So those are some concerns that I have. I agree there's issues and concerns with the schools, the overcrowding. But this does give me concerns that it may cause more issues than the problem it's trying to solve. So, obviously the council, if a majority of the council wanted to bring something like that forward, they could. I see more issues on that than there are more problems than answers in the way that it's moved forward in Middleton, and maybe we can watch them and try to learn from their mistakes and see how it plays out on them, and if there is a way to do something. I'm all for trying to help the schools in this situation that they're in, but I have concerns on how that's being addressed. So those are just my thoughts in regards to it. But again, if the majority of the council wanted to do something, they definitely could.
Well, I said I would bring it up, so if there's not any kind of movement towards it, then at least it was brought up. So this is gonna be easier. Just take one and pass it down, please, Chuck.
Take one down and pass it
And one of these. Ben James, who's a resident of Caldwell, proposed to us about offering free parking to veterans downtown. And one way to accomplish that was using their plates, because anybody who has a anybody who has a veteran's plate is already vetted by the DMV, so we don't have to do anything extra. They have to take in their paperwork, their DD 214, whatever it is, to be able to get the plate. So it's not the same thing as getting like a law enforcement plate or fireman plate where you're supportive of that or anything like that. They have to actually prove that they're a veteran. So they've kind of done the work for us. So one of the proposals was to offer free parking for veterans based on their plate. They've already been vetted, and they can park anywhere downtown for free. There were some other ideas about creating maybe a registration system for veterans who don't have the plates, although I think there is probably a burden for that right now with staff and just getting this started, all that kind of stuff. Maybe that's something we can look into down the line. But for now, I think an easy solution would be to offer free parking for veterans based on their plates and call it a day.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea, and something that would require council action, but something that we could bring forward. It would be pretty simple to amend that resolution that we have and bring that forward at the next council meeting for discussion and for a vote of the council. And next council meeting is, what is today? May 21st. So that is a few days after they go live. However, I know in discussion with the car park, they would act like that was in place, even though it's not approved by councils. They would not get, and even the first few weeks, they're not going to be giving out any tickets anyway to anybody. It's just going to be a time to learn and just let people know what's going on. So obviously there's time to get that in place before any tickets would ever be issued.
And just to confirm that it wouldn't be set parking spaces. They would just park wherever because of the plate.
Correct. Be very similar to like a handicap or a disabled plate.
Right, except they wouldn't have to park in a labeled spot. They could
Correct.
park anywhere they wanted to, and as long as they have their military plate that's not expired, all that's legal, then they would have free parking.
Yep. So yeah, we can make that amendment, bring that forward at the next council meeting for discussion and a motion and a vote for the council.
Okay.
Okay, is that it?
That was it.
Okay, Councilor Stoddard.
Yeah, I would just like to comment a little bit further on Councilor Register's concern about the Middleton thing. I attended a meeting because I still think something ought to be done relative to the overcrowding in schools. And, we talk about property rights, but property rights at whose cost? With these school bonds going up, it's not fair to the other people either, the taxpayers, that they should be paying that much tax either, because we can't control growth. And, I think we need to keep track of this particular ordinance that they have, but again, I have to, applaud them for at least moving forward boldly on something like this to help the school districts out, and, you know, whatever falls out, I guess, but, again, keep in mind that, when we don't do anything, the bonds continue to come and the taxes continue to rise. So that's something that we need to be careful of too, besides property rights, at what cost, so.
Okay, thank you, Counselor Doty.
I'll just steal a little bit from, Counselor Stoddard. I thought he might mention about the, veterans container. Do you wanna?
Sure. We saved the city $4,600. We managed to negotiate, with the storage owner out on Highway 45, at a really highly reduced rate for one of the big storages that they have out there for motorhomes, and he'll actually put the electricity in for the extra freezers and refrigerators that we have so we can accept more food. Walmart has stepped up to the plate and said they'd really like to donate a lot, and he'll even pay for the electricity too. So it's saving the veterans $2,200 a year just on storage, and the city $4,600. So appreciate you bringing that to my attention, Councilor Doty.
Excellent, thank you so much. Anything else? Okay. Counselor Williams, Counselor Dittenber. Okay, very good. And I really don't have any comment either, just it's been an exciting week, moving into the new City Hall, working out the bugs. So that's why we're not meeting there tonight or next, just to make sure that everything's set. Our IT department's done an incredible job of getting everybody up and running, and then to put that on top of them as well. So that's why we have 2 more meetings here. Well, 1 more after tonight, and then our first meeting in June will be at the new city hall. And then also there will be a small open house from 4 to 5 before council that night. We do have a workshop, I think, that night as well. And so for people to kind of walk through and kind of see the new office spaces and things like that. And there'll be people stationed at each window to kind of explain what each department is, what they do, and kind of let them give a quick overview of it. So we're excited for that. And that's all I have for this evening. So with that, we do have an executive session proposed. So if I could get a motion, if you could please read the statement there regarding which section of code, Idaho code, for this executive session.
Mr. Mayor.
Counselor Doty.
I move that we go to executive session pursuant to Idaho Code Section 74-206, subsection 1B, for the purpose of discussing the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent.
Good. And do we have a second?
Second.
So a motion from Counselor Doty and a second from Counselor Stoddard to go in executive session for the reason as listed in the motion. So with that, we do need to take a vote on that. So if all council members could vote yea or nay to go into executive session.
Mine should be yes, Mr. Mayor, but sometimes it fills it in
Fills
on
it
its
on it?
own,
Okay.
so I don't know
So
what to say.
if it turns green or red. So it did. It went green. So, okay, so that does pass
So you gotta use
unanimously.
that later.
Either
Okay.
can't get it to work or it just does it on its own. When it
Shut her down for us? Are we shut down?